Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN Network. Special episode. This is episode 175 of the Union Federation. And what better way to celebrate it than with the season finale for season 2 of Strange New Worlds? And what an episode we have to talk about. But if I'm going to be dealing with big green aliens, I need a little help with this here. So first and foremost, I'm bringing in, of course, he's the top-notch security officer. He might have a special crate stored away somewhere, but I think he's ready for this. He's going to be better than his first time around. He is the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, my brother from another mother, Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
I specialize in Gorn. I've been to their home planet and scouted it out, where Kirk and the Gorn had a little fight there. And I also got a souvenir T-shirt from there, too. See, going, Gorn.
You know what, too? We have got a returning crew member. She has been off on who knows what kind of missions for Section 31 and other things as well. And I know she has a special crate of things hidden somewhere on the ship. It is our favorite counselor, Miss Amy Nelson.
Yay! Hello. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time, but I'm so excited to be talking Trek. There's been so many good episodes. Amazing.
So let's start there, Amy. Of course, you have been away on missions, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. But let's do a little bit of Strange New World catch-up for you. You've missed several episodes, and they've been several really all over the place episodes. And the back half of Strange New World Season 2 has been phenomenal. So give us some of your highlights coming into the season finale for Strange New Worlds since you've been away, because I know you've been playing catch up with some of your BQN people as well.
Yes. Okay, we just need to talk about Subspace Rhapsody. I mean, what a joy. I absolutely loved it. And when I was over in the UK, they released the soundtrack like 3 days before. And so my friends were downloading it and listening. And then when they came, we flew back over for Star Trek Las Vegas. The download was geo-blocked and they couldn't listen to it anymore.
Oh,
yeah.
So they couldn't download it on their personal devices or anything.
Well, they did download it, and so one of them did, and one of them did it, and he's like, "Oh, I can't listen to it because."
Oh wow.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it. I've listened to that soundtrack every day, and it's an earworm. I will get a different song in my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm singing this song. And that's how you know it's such good, because it's every single song on the album. Is amazing.
There a particular one that resonates with you that you go back to more than others? Your favorite, maybe?
See, that's the thing, because it literally, they keep on going around and around. And in fact, I was thinking about it, I'm like, I haven't really listened, or I haven't really responded to the her ones. And then just today, that song was going through my head, like I'm the connecting, I'm the one who's connecting. Oh my gosh, so good. But the one Spock, the first one that I fell in love with was Spock's I'm the X. That broke my heart. That's a good one.
Yeah, it was a very emotional one.
And then the second episode that I wanted to just briefly talk about was the Klingon one. What was the name of that one? Yeah, that one.
War.
Yeah. I really love that one. That is Star Trek to its core. So many different topics. There's not the right answer with what M'Benga does. So to me, it's almost Tuvix. Did he do the right thing or did he not do the right thing? Like, there's so many questions. What?
Were you surprised how dark they got in a character's background on Star Trek?
It was very dark. But we sort of saw that it was be with Nurse Chapel and M'Benga before. So it's like I was I was prepared for it to go that deep. Like when Picard and the whole mother and the father, that season 2 thing, I wasn't prepared for that. They didn't set me up, but they've been talking about this Klingon war for a while and really, you know, how much Mbenga and Chapel were there to help. And, you know, so I was more prepared for it.
Okay, Amy, I'm not letting you off the hook though without talking about those old scientists.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
We know how much you love Lower Decks and how much Lower Decks surprised you and how good it was. And
so good. Like Boimler being Boims. Like he was perfect, and how he was running and screaming and how they were talking nonstop. And it was so in contrast. I mean, they are even saying it. They're like, they talk a lot. They're oddly specific, like so many amazing things and crossovers and tie-ins and just the respect. And then the flip of, oh, we're going to geek out over the NX-01 and the Enterprise. Okay, I loved that because Enterprise needs some love in this franchise.
Yes.
I have to ask you, what did you think of Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome bringing these characters to live action in this episode?
You know, I loved it. And so many times you hear our actors say, you know, when I put on the costume or the uniform, I'm really feeling like I'm in Starfleet, like I'm in character. And to see these two finally get to put on a uniform to fulfill their characters, because these guys, they're Star Trek fans. Like, how amazing is it for them to finally put on a uniform? And I love it that they stole their comm badges. Well, you know, took them.
I think that's tradition at this point, but
yeah.
No, there's some amazing episodes of Strange New World, and I wanted you to get your chance to give your thoughts on them, Amy, because I mean, let's be honest, Strange New World has been hitting it out of the park.
Yep.
And it's been
this
phenomenal.
Will be season to remember, whether you liked it or not. This season, hands down, is way more memorable than any other season in Star Trek. And I just said that.
Yeah, well, I'm tending to agree with you. But we have another piece of news before we get into talking about the latest episode of Strange New Worlds. So let's warp into that, because this is going to be fun. We must talk Star Trek Las Vegas, 57-year mission, because somebody was on special assignment and somebody was at Star Trek Las Vegas. Now, Amy, we all know what happens in Vegas is supposed to stay in Vegas, but we need stories. Come on now.
Can I lead off with one question, though, that I'm really curious about?
Yeah.
So, Amy, you're talking about how you were in the UK first, of course, visiting your friends over there. Some from the BQN, and they traveled with you over to STLV. I want to know, what type of response did the musical episode have, the Subspace Rhapsody? What kind of response did it have there at the convention? Was it celebrated in any way? Was there watch parties? What was the buzz around that episode there?
Because that was the one that dropped during the convention, and people either saw it and they didn't. And so I was very impressed. The fans were very just, did you watch it? If you didn't, they didn't say anything. So there was almost this hush, and It was like, did you watch it? Oh, you did? Oh, let's talk, you know. But everyone was so respectful. I didn't actually end up watching it until Saturday, because you're just too busy doing Star Trek to watch Star Trek.
Right.
So it was very respectful. It wasn't, thrown out there. And from the people I spoke to, loved it.
So you promised me at least one story, Amy. So come on, spill it.
Okay. The highlights were the two Spocks, Ethan Peck and Zachary Quinto, on stage. Like, it was such a beautiful sight to see. I don't know when that's going to happen. They were just going back and forth, talking about, like, passing the mantle from Leonard to Zachary to Ethan. Like, it was beautiful transition. Oh, beautiful. And I actually was going to go up and ask a question, and they ended it, the person right in front of me. Oh, it was so close.
What would you have asked?
So I was there at the filming of Beyond. Well, and this was before Ethan Peck came on. So I was only planning to talk to one Spock. And I was there at the Paramount Studios where they renamed Leonard Nimoy Way. And Zachary Quinto was there. All of the Nimoys were there. And there were about maybe 200 fans. And I just wanted him to share with us that experience, you know. And that would have been very interesting. And I didn't get to ask it. But anyways, another momentous, I would say, panel. I didn't hear about it, but I did get to see the pictures. Like, we had William Shatner, and then Ed Spielers, and then the actor, oh, I'm so bad, who plays Sam Kirk. I'm looking. Where's his name? Oh, Dan Jennott. I don't, yeah. So they were all there. And so the thing going on is like, oh, we have all the Kirks, the two Sam Kirks and the two James Kirks, because William Shatner played both Sam and Jim Kirk. So that was pretty cute. If you paid any attention to Twitter, you might have heard about the Voyager panel with Beltran. I'll just leave it at that. Again, the Marina, Brent Spiner, and Michael Dorn. Amazing. I will never miss a panel with Marina. That was she's hilarious. And there were 2 Prodigy panels. And the first Prodigy panel, our good friend, Mr. Norm Lau, was moderating, and he opened it up to questions, and it was the Hagelman brothers and Aaron Waltke, and then Bonnie Gordon popped up on stage at the end. And great job, Norm, moderating, and opened it up to questions. And I, again, very courageously asked a question. And I was talking about Time Amok. Remember how awesome that episode is with the different times of one's moving slow, and then one is moving faster and then a little bit slower and slower. And then we had, super slow. That's Time Amok. And I was just saying that concept of a dampened sinusoidal curve is amazing. And that's something I could actually teach in my pre-calculus class. And they said, well, when we got the script, the actors, there were actual mathematical equations on the script describing each character's motion in time. I'm like, oh gosh, can I get a copy of that? And they're like, sure. So I hopefully, if it happens, am going to get a copy to see that. Yay.
That is so cool. You and your math question pays off.
So I have to ask, Amy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Prodigy buzz on social media.
Yes. Now, the second Prodigy panel. So in the first one, they sort of teased it and they said, don't miss this Prodigy panel in the main stage. So I'm like, okay. And I told all my friends, and we had our little area sitting by each other. They showed the first 4 minutes of season 2 Prodigy right there for all of us to see. Unbelievable. I want more. I was just watching.
So we are getting a season 2 of Prodigy.
Yes. And the big thing was that the Hagelman brothers were like, we are 99% sure it's going to be picked up. They're not going to say that unless it's the ink just needs to dry. I mean,
they got to cross a T or dot an I, and
yeah, we're going to get it.
I hope so. Even if all we get is that second season and it wraps up some of the storylines and stuff like that, but hopefully with more than that.
Yeah, I felt when they said that, all my fears went away. I'm like, okay, it's going to happen. So that was a huge relief.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just going to say, because from what I saw on social media, people were just absolutely blown away by the Prodigy footage they did show.
Yeah. Well, and we get Voyager A and we get the Doctor. So
I had a question on what type of lower decks representation did they have? Was there any buzz about the crossover? What do you know about that?
oh yeah, because Tawny Newsome was there, Jack Quaid was there. They were talking all about it and just how fun it was. Well, and Jonathan Frakes was there too, so it was being talked about a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah,
one of the things I saw, it seems like the Spocks and Boimler have developed a bond, because there's a lot of pictures of the three of them together from STLV as well.
I think their tables were next to each other, but yeah.
There we go. Well, thank you for your report from Star Trek Las Vegas.
That's awesome.
Another great year, and seeing your pictures on social media, Amy, I'm just glad you had such a wonderful time and got to spend time with so many friends and Star Trek family.
Yes.
But with that, guys, it is time to get into the main topic of today's episode. It is time to talk season 2, episode 10, the season finale. Hegemony is, I believe, is how they got this going.
Yeah, how do you pronounce it? I'm sorry.
Hegemony.
Hegemony.
Okay.
So with that, I'm engaging the warp drive to get us started for the coverage. Now, of course, before we get started with any new episode of Strange New Worlds, spoiler alert. We're going to be doing a deep dive into the season finale of Strange New Worlds Season 2, and I am really excited about doing this, and I think it's safe to say the rest of the crew is as well. Mr. Reitzel, Miss Nelson is still kind of recovering her vocal cords from partying too much with a bunch of Trek fans in Las Vegas. Would you care to do the Admiral's Log episode synopsis this week, sir?
Would love to. All right. Patel's ship, the Cayuga, with Chapel aboard, is ambushed by the Gorn while resupplying the Gorn-claimed human colony Parnassus Beta. The Enterprise arrives to assist and finds the Cayuga severely damaged and communications and transporters blocked by a jamming field. April orders them to remain in Federation territory to avoid provoking a war, but Pike leads Ortegas, La'an, Mbega, and Sam Kirk to the surface to mount a rescue. They find Starfleet engineer Montgomery Scott with Patel and the other survivors. Scotty has jerry-rigged a cloaking device to hide from the Gorn, but while retrieving it, Pike discovers Patel has been infected with Gorn eggs. Uhura and Palia devise a strategy to drive Kuyega's wreckage out of orbit and destroy the Gorn jammer. As Spock installs retro rockets on the Cayuga, he kills an attacking Gorn with help from Chapel, who has survived in the wreckage. The jammer is destroyed, allowing the Enterprise to beam Pike, Patel, and Scotty up, but the Gorn capture La'an, Mbega, Ortega, Sam, and the surviving colonists. 4 Gorn ships arrive and engage Enterprise, overwhelming it. Pike is forced to decide whether or not to rescue his captured crew.
And the worst part of it all is the next words on the screen were "to be continued." Okay, guys. First reactions to this episode, because I'm going to just flat out say I was blown away. This episode was something amazing. But you know what, Amy, I'm going to let you sit in the chair first, because you get back into the swing of podcasting things.
It has been a while. This episode was good. I'm not blown away, in part because I have a lot of questions, and they kept coming at critical points when I should be involved in the story. And I was just like, no, this doesn't make sense. Da, 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 da. And it happened like 3 or 4 times. So I kept being thrown out of the story because there's too many questions for me. I loved seeing the crew working together. Uhura, like, going down to engineering. I love that pull that she has to engineering. It just, it calls back to Hemmer, gets Pelia involved, because she's sort of not. And I had issues with her in this episode as well. The wonderful exchange between Spike and number one, where she's like, I would never tell you to give up hope. I want Nurse Chapel to be alive too. And that exchange where he's like, you know, we left things badly. I want to apologize. I want to fix it. There were just these little moments when Pike sees Chapel for the first time and just instantly hug. There's those moments that really make this episode stand out.
Mr. Reitzel.
I thought it was a good kind of intense episode. Got to see more of the Gorn in this one too, and on a rewatch, I was kind of trying to keep an eye on details. I still got questions, kind of like what Amy has as well. And I was, you know, with the colony down on the field and the way that Pike and shoot, I'm forgetting his girlfriend's name.
Battelle.
Yeah, Battelle. Thank you. We're kind of talking. I was kind of getting some crystalline entity vibes with data lore and whatever the episode was, where we first kind of see the crystalline entity come in and then start to wreak havoc. I was kind of getting that type of vibe too, and a little bit of Independence Day, the way the Gorn ship was coming out from the clouds and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. A lot of really good visuals here, especially with the creatures and such, and you know, the survivors having to like hide away in this, you know, cafe or whatever, and there's like blood everywhere. It's getting a little bit of a horror vibe too. Just kind of curious to see where things were going and how they were going to kind of get out of this. I wasn't expecting a season cliffhanger, to be honest with you, and it caught me off guard.
I was, like I said before, I was blown away by this episode. I love this episode. I love the aspect of with the Gorn that, yes, we're getting some questions answered, but we're getting more questions about this because we know so little about the Gorn. And I think that is one of the things I am very much excited about, is learning more about the Gorn. But I'm also glad they're not just giving it all away right out of the gate. I think the mystery of the Gorn is going to be something that's going to be a big part of the next season of Strange New Worlds, and I'm excited about that. I love the crew entirely from top to bottom in this episode. They all have these great little moments in there. And I got to say it, seeing the Gorn, a full-size Gorn in the spacesuit out in space, was just such a mind-blowing visual. And it was just so impressively done. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then I wasn't expecting the cliffhanger, but to end on that to be continued, I was just pulling my best of both worlds. Like, no, it's like, what? And that was the magic of this. The frustration of this is, of course, as things stand right now, we don't know when we're going to see season 3. So there is a little bit of frustration there. But I think the moment with Ortegas, with her flying the shuttle and Pike kind of freaking out a little bit, and she's like, "I thought you were a test pilot." I loved all the little moments that they gave the crew in this, and I just thought it was an amazing season finale, full of a season of incredible episodes. And I don't know if this is the best episode of the season, but there's just something about this that just sat wonderfully with me.
Wow. So can I ask my questions real quick?
Please.
Yeah,
okay.
Please.
Okay. So at the very beginning, when Pike is talking to Admiral April and he uses the word monster, and I was like, ooh, you are not in a good spot to be saying a monster. Like, and April sort of calls him out and was like, well, a monster is if they don't understand us, like that's how you perceive it, or we don't understand them. And again, and we'll probably get to it, but I didn't like the fact that they're just calling this as monster when it's very evident that they have sentience, that they have this ability to reason. And I'm not happy with how they're portraying the Gorn. Should we save this for later? I feel like but
we can touch on to answer your question about the monster,
yeah.
At least from my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a very reasonable reaction from Pike, because he's already had an experience with the Gorn that was pretty horrific, and he lost a friend as part of that. And from all of his conversations with Luan about what she went through and stuff like that, he's not seeing. He's trying to put human sensibilities on this, and he's also knowing. You got to remember when he's having this conversation, his thought is, rescue these people, rescue Patel, rescue Chapel, rescue these people from these things, from this race that he knows is probably going to kill these people he cares about.
Also, too, the way they have shown the Gorn in Strange New Worlds thus far have been in monstrous type of situations. Yeah. Low lighting, blood, eggs that impregnate you. That's straight out of Aliens right there, so to speak. You know, I mean, the way they've been depicted and the way that they act and the way that they, you know, kill things. Yes, they are technology advanced and have ships and all that kind of stuff, but the way that they've been shown and the way that they've been acting can be shown as being a monster in the eyes of most people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that just rubs me the wrong way.
And also too, not being able to communicate with them like you do with most aliens, where you can at least say, hey, let's talk about this. That's not happening either. Thus also adding to the monster thing as well.
Yeah, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Discovery, species 10C. They fought the urge to describe them as monsters as they did that. And I'm missing that, because you know how much I love my species 10C.
I don't remember who 10C was. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Amy. Yeah, Amy, I think the difference there is there wasn't as much negative relations with 10C as there have been with the Gorn, which they've established. All Pike especially knows is the Gorns are this destructive force that kill without mercy. And so when he's thinking monster, he's thinking that. I mean, technically, when the Borg are first introduced, they can in a way become, we call them monster too, because they're emotionless in their actions. But when they're first introduced, they're emotionless in their actions. They have no So
they weren't described as monsters.
Well, no, but I'm saying that it's again how you define. I think it's word definition and association here, and how they see that. But
okay, wait, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, this one I really do need answered. Why is Spock the only person who can put those boosters on? Like, he's saying multiple times, I am the only person. It must be me. And what gives him the special qualifications to get in a suit and attach thrusters? And the thrusters, they should be bolted down. All he does is set it on the thing. Okay, so that part, I just felt like why there was nothing that he said that made Spock the only one. And I was like, no, just because you're, brother to Burnham doesn't mean we need to have Burnham saves the day again.
I just kind of took that as a writer's creative way to get Spock to reunite with Chapel.
Yeah, that was the wrong thing to do.
Well, I think too, what I took from that too was maybe in a physical aspect and Spock's logic ability to be out in that intense situation. As far as the rockets go, they could have had some super magnetic properties to them or something like that. That I can roll with. But it's just, as Kevin said, the ultimate thing is it's a way to get him so that he's reuniting with Chapel there. I think that's just was a writer's trick. But guys, normally this is where we would talk about a little bit about the cast and who stood out. But really, we need to talk about the introduction of the latest iconic Trek character into Strange New Worlds, and of course that is the wonderful Mr. Scott. Montgomery Scott makes his first appearance on Strange New World, played by Martin Quinn. Guys, I wish Haley was here, because she was making a comment. It's like she's ready for Scotty to be on Strange New Worlds. What were your reactions to Scotty showing up in this episode, Kevin?
I caught me off caught me off guard. Nice surprise. I loved it. What a great way to introduce a character. Personally, better than Star Trek 2009, where he's in some weird outpost in the middle of nowhere in the snow. So I thought that was it, with a weird little creature that followed him around, which, yeah, I did come attached to later on, though. But both performances were fine, but I like this situation of how he was first introduced in being on a ship that was destroyed, and then being able to help jury rig a way to help combat the situation. And the actor was great. I liked it. I was paying close attention to the accent as best as I could. I don't know anything about the actor. I've heard a lot of Scottish in my time because I've been to Scotland several times. I have good friends that are Scottish. Did pretty good. I'm not an expert, but I was pretty impressed.
Miss Nelson?
Yeah, I had no idea we would be meeting him, and he came along, and I didn't have an adverse reaction like I have done previously, i.e. Kirk and Sam Kirk and Zachary and Spock from Discovery Season 2. Like, I don't know what it is, and I'm like, I didn't have that with him, so kudos to Martin Quinn.
I really liked it. I was surprised about it as well. Kudos to everybody on Strange New Worlds for keeping this secret under wraps.
Right.
I think he had a lot of charm of Scotty in this episode. I think he brought some of that quirkiness of Scotty, and I love the fact that Peli is like, Mr. Scott, but you would have had a much. You're one of the best students I ever had, but you would have had a much better grade if you actually applied yourself. So
okay. Let me just jump in. I am loving Pelia's reaction whenever she comes across a former student. I mean, as a teacher, that is hilarious, and I can relate. It's beautiful, the look she gives.
And I agree with you. I mean, what she does with Una in this episode. Well, if you would have had answers like that in class, you would have gotten an A. But no, I love the fact that he's here. Hopefully he's a regular cast addition going into season 3. And I'm just looking very forward to seeing what he brings as Montgomery Scott to Strange New Worlds. It was a lot of fun. But with that, guys, I'm going to hit the transporter and transport us into our first away mission. Okay, guys, away mission 1. And I'm calling this Strange New Best of Both Worlds, because for the first time in a very long time, we have a Star Trek finale that ends on a major cliffhanger. And guys, I'm going to ask you, because you're both huge TNG fans. I'm a big TNG fan too, but you two are definitely at a level above me. Did you have the same feelings as when 2P Continued pops up on this screen in any way similar to Best of Both Worlds? Do you think this kind of had, the cutest is the cutest, and I get that, but do you feel like this still had some pretty hefty weight to it, considering all the circumstances that are going on here? Kevin?
Yeah, I'm just happy that when it comes to a last episode of a season, that we have the option of a season finale, as opposed to, I don't know if they wrap that all up in this one full season, Discovery. That's not how it should have ended, Discovery. That's what the burn is, Discovery. You know, I was happy that we finally get to this episodic television and the option of having a cliffhanger of going to another season. And yes, the most iconic, you would probably say, in all of Star Trek would be the Best of Both Worlds. TNG, though, did some good ones, though. TNG did some really good, season finale kind of cliffhangers, did a few of those. And I think DS9 as well. I wouldn't say I was getting vibed. I didn't think of that when I was watching the rest of us. I was just caught off guard that it was ending in a cliffhanger. I was expecting like another 15 minutes of like, oh, wait, they got to go rescue their friends. And then, oh, nope. And so they're really making this threat with the Gorn a real thing here. They're really kind of going all out on this, which means they're probably going to try to set up some type of communication with them. And with April getting the eggs put in them kind of reminds me of, what was it, Alien 3, when Ripley got pregnant and the alien didn't attack her. I didn't catch that at first on the first watch, though. But I was just happy that we had a season finale in the way that it did, and that it gets you to look forward to the next season.
Amy, what about you? This big cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was funny because I was talking to someone at the convention, and obviously no one had seen it, but a few people had, because there's screeners going out. And so I was talking, and he's like, well, I'm not going to say. And I said, no, just tell me what you thought, and da-da-da. And he told me it's a cliffhanger. And I was like, oh, no. I mean, it's one thing to wait 3 months. It's another thing to wait indefinitely. Like, that is significant. And so when I was watching, and I was involved at this point, and then to be continued. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had totally forgotten that it's going to be a cliffhanger. What a way to leave it. In my mind, I heard Riker saying fire. Like, that's just what happens when I see those words, to be continued, So I really am enjoying it. I just am really hating that it's going to be, for sure, well over 1 year. And that's a long time to have a cliffhanger. No one can hang on the cliff that long. We're going to forget about it. And that's a shame.
I don't know if we'll forget about it, because I've been following a lot of social media and listening to a lot of podcasts, and I'm seeing a lot of podcasts who normally don't cover that much Trek, and they are talking Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is becoming a major phenomenon, and I haven't seen anything like this. Even when, the closest I can say is when Next Generation was at its peak, where everybody was talking about it. Like, Strange New Worlds is really becoming that beloved, and I love that for that. But one of the other things too, I mean, and I was going, I'm like, no. But one of the things that's been going through my mind since I've watched it is, okay, so you've got all these different things that are hanging out there. What is the one thing coming off of a cliffhanger that you're most excited to find out about or see more of when we start up next season? Because I know what it is for me, because it's Leon and Mbenga teaming up against the Gorn, because that is a battle royal matchup that I'm looking forward to, especially if Mbenga has any of his little cocktail
serum
serum to inject himself with. But I want to ask you guys, is there one of these dangling plot threads from this cliffhanger that you're really looking forward to when Strange New Worlds returns to getting the resolution to? Kevin?
Well, we got the captain's girlfriend, April Patel, infected with some Gorn eggs. Kind of curious where that's going to go. And also really curious to see how Scotty gets integrated into this group. The Gorn are going to Gorn, either they're going to keep fighting them, or they're going to try to find some way to communicate with them. And once you figure out a way to communicate with them, then diplomacy then can prevail. So I'm kind of curious if that is going to be something that is going to be looked at as well.
Amy?
Yeah, I'm very curious, like you, Kevin, to see how Scotty fits in. Is he just gonna? He was on the Enterprise before Kirk. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so then that's gonna make sense that we'll lose Pelia and Scotty. Okay. Oh, that's good. I'm not a fan of Pike and Batel, so.
Wait, what?
I know.
What?
I know. Don't hate
Kevin,
me.
I hate to tell you this, but from what I've gathered listening to some of the other podcasts I've listened to and stuff, there's a lot of people out there who aren't hearting Pike Patel.
Why?
It's the actor. And she's written okay, but there's something about the actor, and I don't like Pike having a relationship. I didn't get enough of my single hot Pike. He got into a relationship too fast.
A little jealousy, I see. All right.
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah. So I don't care if that resolves.
I don't accept that answer, but okay.
But the Spock and Chapel, I need to see if that gets resolved, how well it gets resolved, because we know that there's, you know, some flirting in the TOS series. So I want to see that resolution and that transformation to TOS.
I think that's fair. I just want to bring up this.
I'm beginning to think that this pushback on this relationship has a lot to do with some people being very jealous. Just going to say.
There's a lot of people that need our Daddy Pike time.
Yeah, the ladies need single Pike. They need to be able to have their hopes.
Single.
Yeah. I'm just going to bring this slide up of Sam Kirk, because gut feeling is that this Gorn kidnapping is not going to end well for Sam Kirk.
Yeah, is he going to die soon or what?
Just saying, he didn't do exactly well.
I already find him annoying, but I find his mustache even more annoying. I'm just going to say.
You guys are terrible.
Well, guys, we are going to go into the second part of these away missions, because it's time to talk Gorn. We get to see in this episode, obviously, the young Gorn again, but we also get to see a fully adult Gorn. And Kevin, I'm going to say this right now. This is the stuff of space alien nightmares, because this thing was impressive looking. There's something about the fact that this Gorn is wearing a spacesuit too that just makes it even all the more intimidating. I don't know what it is, but this look right now, I'm putting this right up there. It's as good a sharp looking as a xenomorph or a predator. There's just something about this that is just horrifying.
Can you do me a favor? Can you go to the picture you have of the original Gorn?
Yeah. You mean the ultimate Gorn form?
Yeah. I want to talk about that real quick, because seeing these new Gorns and now looking at this old Gorn, he just seems so cuddly, you know?
Yes.
And also, too, I have met the actor that's played the Gorn several times, Carl Klink. Great guy. I met him at Wonder World a couple of years ago, and I got his autograph again in picture. And he was, I remember meeting him at one of the early Star Trek creation Pasadena events. Oh, yes. I go way back. And meeting him and his son, who was like a model builder on some of the stuff on TNG. Great guy, loves the fact that he's part of Star Trek. He's done some of those Star Trek tours where they go to Vasquez Rocks, and he talks about his experience there and stuff. But it's so funny. I mean, he seems so scary and so just intimidating with this original episode, but I got to give it to the creators. These new Gorn are vicious. They are very aliens, from like Sigourney Aliens-ish. And there's always kind of a horror-themed feel when you're watching these things. And the fact that we're getting a lot of practical effects really makes me excited.
Amy, what about you? I mean, come on. Isn't that only a face a mother could love?
It is. It is. Go to the next picture, please. Like, again, my issue with the Gorn is that they're having him still too much like a monster. And it's been a monster now for 2 seasons. And when you talk about, okay, iconic monsters, the Borg, like you were saying, and then I was thinking Species, the one from Voyager. 9742. What is it? I don't know.
Species 8472, I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. I know. I'm not a big Voyager memory. Okay. So at least those were never portrayed as so monstrous. I'm sorry I'm not getting over it, but the Borg were super scary. And they were scary starting in season 3, right? That's when we saw them. But it got resolved because there was, we are the Borg, resistance is futile. Like, there's communication. There's none here. Species 8472, whatever. What is their name? Oh my gosh. They were more like this Gorn. but they communicated with them somehow. Right? So I can't get over it. They obviously have ships. So they have to be intelligent. They are traveling space. They're marking their territory. They're sending images with a demarcation line saying, here's the line, no further, right? So the fact that we have not communicated with them in any way, shape, or form is way too annoying for me. And that can't happen because this is not fantasy. This is science fiction. And we need to have a discussion somehow. We need to understand what is their motive. I can't do it with the Gorn.
First of all, it is species 8472. How many actual episodes, though, Amy, if we actually featured the Gorn in Star Trek Strange New Worlds? I can remember this one and one more.
Well, there was, right.
So there's 2 so far.
Okay. But it's been a lot of talking about it.
There might have been mentions of them in other episodes, but there's only been 2 episodes where they have showcased them.
Yeah.
And so I see your frustration, but I think it's not as much as you think. I think that it feels like it's a lot more because in each episode that they have been featured in has been pretty horrendous situations.
Yeah.
It's been scary.
Yeah.
So that's why going forward, the 3rd episode, season 3, episode 1, I'm sure we'll start to get some type of like if they start to string it on after the 3rd full episode where they're dealing with the Gorn, I can get that frustration. But I haven't gotten that frustration yet because we really haven't gotten a lot of episodes with them in it. But I do hope that they make steps of some communication maybe in the next episode, as well as, figuring out, how to get their buddies and stuff.
Yeah.
So also to your points, Amy, let's recall a couple of things. The Gorn are still a pretty big mystery to the Federation because most people who have encountered the Gorn haven't survived their encounter with the Gorn. And the one we have, but the one we have, Leon, all she tells us horrific tales of being hunted and all of these things. And the Gorn we've seen in the first time we see him, it's a child. And then we see young Gorn child at first in this episode. This is what we have on screen. This is a child Gorn. So it's to me, what I see is that the Gorn come out very primal. And then as they get, if they age, they gain more of those skills as they age. And I'm kind of wondering too. So the only other Gorn we've seen is that one in the spacesuit as far as an adult one. I am going to guess that there are probably several different type of Gorn, and we haven't seen them all yet. And there are probably some Gorn that are more intelligent that they don't make an appearance. They let the grunts and the more vicious types of Gorn. Those are the ones you see, and those are the ones that make an appearance here. So I think there's an aspect of they're trying to keep the mystery around the Gorn a little bit here. We know there's more to the Gorn. Obviously, they even talk about how the solar flares possibly drew out the Gorn. So there's something about that attracted them. So I think when we get into season 3, the Gorn are actually going to be one of the big plot points. We're going to learn a lot more about the Gorn once we do get season 3. I think we're kind of in this boat too, where we do have a little discovery-itis where we've gotten used to where we're solving all the problems in this one season, and there's not a lot of carryover because of how Trek has been written in this new era. And now we're getting something with Strange New Worlds it's carrying over to a season now. And so even though it's still episodic television,
let me throw out another thing, Kyle. Sorry to interrupt, but maybe there's another thing about it. Maybe it's the Gorn themselves that that you're not attached to. Not that they're trying to, they're tough to communicate with or whatever. Maybe it's just how they're being represented, because it's basically a horror episode each time that they're around them.
I agree.
Maybe that's what's turning you off, Amy, because it's uncomfortable to watch, you know, with the blood everywhere and with the eggs being put in them and stuff, very alien-like. And it's not for everyone. And you know, we're used to our enemies being a little more people that you usually can communicate with.
Reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah. And you know, maybe just the way they're being portrayed isn't your cup of tea. And I'm sure you're not alone, because listening to your comments and stuff, I'm thinking like that's probably part of it, for other people to feel the same way, because it's just uncomfortable to watch these episodes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And plus, I really feel the way they're portraying the Gorn is different than any Star Trek creature or villain that we've encountered. I can't think of any creature or villain in Star Trek that's so primally horrifying. How they portrayed the Gorn to this point. You know, the Borg were scary, but they weren't primal.
Strange New Worlds is living up to its name. I mean, it really lived up to its name, and it's also showcased us some of the more darker episodes that we've ever seen in Star Trek. You know.
Yeah. But
then they throw us a curveball where they're all singing. You're like, oh, yes.
Yeah, we're going to make a happy episode. Here's what they've done. Happy episode, dark episode. Happy episode, dark episode. We're going to put you on the emotional roller coaster on the back half of season 2.
God, can you imagine they put all the dark episodes at the end? You're like, oh, my God.
Yeah, no. That'd be too much like Discovery.
Sick and beg on them.
Yeah. Kevin, if you put all the dark episodes together, we were like trying to binge watch Black Mirror.
Oh, my God. The reason why I couldn't watch that show anymore. Jeez.
Okay, guys, let's transport into some Star Trek trivia. Okay, guys, I've got a few pieces of trivia here that I think are going to be kind of fun. The colony town was that they show in the beginning of the thing was filmed in Pickering, Ontario, which is also the filming location for the series Reacher, Kevin. And as well as the film, and has been the home of that they've used many other films and TV series. So this is quite the popular location.
Okay, the film it.
Yeah, the film it. Oh, the film it. Okay. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's right. But still, quite a popular filming location for Hollywood.
Yeah, that was a cool setting.
The class of the USS Cayuga has not been specifically identified on screen. Memory Alpha notes that it could be either Constitution class or Sombra class, as they look nearly identical. The USS Peregrine in All Those Who Wander was Sombra class. This episode reveals the registry number of the Cayuga is NCC 1557. From that, it can be inferred that the Cayuga is almost certainly Sombra class. This is because the USS Constitution, the prototype and first ship of the Constitution class, has a registry number of NCC 1700. The Enterprise was the second Constitution starship with the registry number NCC 1701. The Cayuga's registry number being lower than the Constitution's indicates that she was built earlier by a bit, in fact. So, a little bit of Easter eggs here as well. We've had a few fun Easter eggs, but this was one of my favorites. You've told me that one before. Pike says there's always a choice. Leon retorts, yeah, you've told me that one before. This probably references the pilot episode of the series when Pike tells Leon there's surviving and there's living. It's your choice. Non-Starfleet transporter beams. These usually tend to lead to bad things for Starfleet members, but well before Spock reveals that the transporter signatures are non-Starfleet, we're actually shown that the transporter effect is not the usual one we're used to seeing. When M'Benga, Sam, Ortegas, and Leon, along with all the colonists, are beamed up, the entire effect is clearly not the transporter from the Enterprise. So when it was revealed later that the Gorn snagged everyone, the episode actually hinted at this earlier. Did you guys pick up on this when it happened?
Did not.
Amy, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I noticed that it was a different beam out, but I just thought, oh, well, they got beamed up. So I didn't know it was the Gorn until that. So,
Kevin, what about you?
Nope, went right over my head.
Here's another fun one. Double red alert. Number one says they can't make this red alert any redder. And yet, in the conscience of the King in the original series, Kirk did call for a double red alert. Interestingly, the episode also featured Uhura singing just like she did in the previous episode of Strange New Worlds.
Double red alert.
That's that's not good. And finally, this might be of interest to Miss Amy Nelson. The Spock walk. Spock's spacewalk at the end of the episode evokes aspects of his spacewalk in the motion picture. But when he and Chapel fight the Gorn in zero gravity, Spock uses a move from the animated series. When Spock propels himself to fight the Gorn, it's very similar to what he does in zero gravity in the Trek animated series episode, The Jihad. In that episode, it was established that Spock and Kirk had fight practice in null gravity all the time. Clearly, Spock's null gravity fight training started before he became BFFs with Kirk.
I've only seen that series once all the way through. I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it, nerds.
Well, with that, guys, we are going to warp out of here because it's time to talk the Ready Room. Okay, guys, the season finale of the Ready Room, as well as hosted by Will Wheaton, which was one of the more interesting, I think, especially for you creature feature fans out there, because this week's Ready Room, Will Wheaton explores Star Trek Strange New Worlds exciting season 2 finale, Hegemony, from every angle, including behind-the-scenes interviews with the cast and crew of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, plus the artists at Legacy Effects Studio reveal the secrets behind the Gorn and much more. Have you guys watched the Ready Room?
I have.
Yes.
We are killing it for Strange New Worlds Ready Room this season, guys. It must be reflective of how good the show is. But yeah. Kevin, we've talked about this all the time. Effects, especially in the dark, but man, were these Gorn effects so well done by Legacy in this episode. And I was behind the scenes of it.
Yeah, I was very curious about this episode of the Ready Room, and I was really happy that the special effects guys got highlighted in this. And I love the amount of practical effects, especially with the Gorn creatures. I love the Gorn puppet. Please get me one of those. I love that. That was so cool. But I got to be honest with you. As much as I loved all the Gorn stuff, there was too much Gorn stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. The season finale, you couldn't get the actor who played Spock or someone else to come in and talk about their experience. You know, it was all Gorn, all Gorn, all Gorn. And I'm just going like, okay, I guess it's cool that he went there. Will got to do his own away mission and check this out. And it's great. I'm glad all of these guys were highlighted, but I didn't need 33 minutes of it. Just saying.
Amy?
You know, I actually didn't miss having the actors on. But now that you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, we didn't have a regular interview with the, main cast. I loved seeing the behind the scenes, and like you're saying, we get this physical models and the little Gorns, and like it took 3 people to move the Gorn, and it was so cute. And the eyeballs, that was really cool because it's not a sphere. It's more of the almond, the egg shape, which, as they explain, can't move on both axes. So it's an eye within an eye, so that one can move XY and the other can move ZY. Like, it was so interesting. And I really, like you said, they got the big highlight. We got to recognize those who created it. And I love that the people, J.L. and Scott, gave props of, we look out on the internet and there's people who are doing 3D printing or that come up with creative ideas, and then that they take it. So recognizing that this industry is a give and take.
One of the things I really liked about this too is I kind of like how they broke it up, where they kind of broke the interview into 3 parts and then the puppet demonstrations in between the interviews. And I really like that. The other thing is this: if I ever plan to wear a Gorn suit, I better get my ass into the gym for at least a year, because yeah, it's only like 100 pounds. And then when he said they did wire work with the Gorn people in the Gorn suits, I'm like, oh, those poor wire people. That had to have been misery filming that. But it's just so cool because it is such a well done practical effect. And Kevin, I got to say this, it's actually something I'm very glad to be seeing, is that we are seeing these shows get back to more practical effects. We've seen it in Star Wars with the Andor show, and we're seeing it with Strange New Worlds. and it's refreshing. The digital is great for when you need it, but there's still nothing better and more realistic on screen than a true practical effect.
Yeah, and I like the fact that we were seeing that with the Orville and a lot of other shows as well. I love that we're seeing a lot more of that, and I think Hollywood is kind of starting to go, you know what, we can touch things up with CG, but let's let the creators create that, are good at this, and that they can create the good prosthetics and creatures and stuff like that. And even though this wasn't my favorite Ready Room, I did want to say that I'm so happy that we're lucky that we live in a world where after Star Trek, we get a separate episode going behind the scenes and interviewing these actors. Can you imagine if we had something like that? Maybe not after every episode, but every now and then for our Star Trek in the 60s, 80s, and 90s. Can you imagine that if we had these after shows, which have kind of become a thing? So I'm happy that not only do they have Will Wheaton hosting this, but I'm glad that they put money and production into these after shows so we can see behind the scenes and really appreciate not just the stars in front of the camera, but the creators behind the camera as well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, very, very well put. And congratulations to Will Wheaton on a phenomenal season for Star Trek Strange New Worlds of the Ready Room. He is, I've said it many times, but he's grown so much in this role, and I think he's kind of become the spokesman in a way for Trek. And
he's become the conduit for a lot of these people that maybe haven't done shows before, that are new to Star Trek. And since he knows all these people, and he's interviewing all these people, he's the one that's now becoming the common thread with all of these shows. And it's been great to see, how people are so excited to see him, and when they see him in person, it's really neat.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things too is he's become kind of the age conduit between these shows as well, because he's close. He was on these shows so young, but he's closer in age to the stars on Strange New World and Discovery and things like that. So he's able to relate to them more with current events while still bridging to his generation of Star Trek as well. And I think that's made it very magical in itself too. But guys, It's been a fun season of Strange New Worlds. I think we might talk about it a little bit more on Union Federation, but let's go ahead and warp out and look into the Orb of Prophecy. So, of course, this is the Union Federation podcast, which you can find both on the Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN Network. But guys, I want to talk about what's coming up, because we're not that far now, Amy. Of course, the big announcement, Lower Decks Season 4 starting in early September, and Season 5 officially on the plate. I'm excited. I was ready to do some Lower Decks binge watching after the crossover episode this year. I cannot wait for more of Mike McMahon Season 4. And I'm going to ask you, and actually, Kevin, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do we have a new appreciation for Lower Decks, especially after the great Ready Room episode, where you hear Jonathan Frakes talk about Mike McMahon's process, and you heard Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome talk about their experience with Lower Decks, and then coming over to the live action side of it? It's made me at least look at Lower Decks in a little bit different light and really have a more appreciation of what they do there. What do you think? Did you pull anything from that?
Who are you talking to?
Yeah, I thought, I'm very excited. I had a rough start, but my gosh, now we're season 4. I am totally on board with it. Throw me all the references that you want, because I'm going to try and catch them all. This is the appropriate time to do it. They've got great stories. It's episodic. It laughs at Star Trek, which we all love to do. So I'm completely on board. At STLV, who plays Rutherford.
I can't think of his name, but
yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
He was just the cutest on stage, and I could feel he was a little nervous, but everyone just showed so much love. So many Lower Deck cosplay at STLV. I got my picture with Badgie. Just Lower Decks is very much well loved, and very excited that we're going to get that in September.
Kevin, Lower Decks, of course, means the return of your favorite starship in all of the Federation, the USS Cerritos.
Love the Cerritos. Love the Cerritos. Yeah, I'm really excited. It's funny. I was at Best Buy the other day going, is there a Star Trek Lower Deck Season 2 Steelbook? Because I got my Season 1, but I don't have Season 2 yet. And I was realizing I got to pick up Season 2 on Blu-ray because I want to check out like special features and stuff like that. Love the show. Love the references. It's so funny. And I have an all new appreciation now that we've seen 2 main cast members in live action, because I'm hoping maybe, we'll see something like that later on with the rest of the cast members. We'll see.
That would be great. And Amy, I actually have a piece of Lower Decks trivia for you, which you'll find fun. Jack Quaid, who of course plays Boimler, is voicing another iconic person in fandom right now. He is the voice of Superman on the new DC animated My Adventures with Superman series.
Wow. He's voicing Superman, the Superman.
The Superman.
Wow.
And just a reminder, his parents are Dennis Quaid and
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan?
Meg Ryan, yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that was his mom. Huh.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan were together for a very long time until Russell Crowe came along. Of course, too, we are looking forward to as well in early 2024 the return for the final season of Star Trek Discovery, as well as upcoming projects. The Section 31 film, Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which Tawny Newsome will be a writer on for that show as well. So that's going to be interesting. And do we have Star Trek? Maybe after the strike, we get a little announcement of a little Star Trek Legacy. Did Todd drop any hints while he was there?
It seemed like we're getting Legacy. It didn't seem like a question. It was just, we're getting it. Just like the Starfleet Academy.
We just can't say it yet. Basically, right. It's like we're sworn to secrecy, or they're going to throw us in the Gorn pit.
Yeah.
I got to ask you though, Amy. I do have one more question about STLV because, of course, Todd Stashwick, he has become adored by the Star Trek fans. He was in attendance at STLV.
Yes.
I have a feeling he might have helped steal the show a little bit while he was there, because he just seems to come into a room and people just gravitate towards the man.
Yeah, I actually didn't see his panel. It was a little early in the morning, the one with Jonathan Frakes and oh my gosh, 7 of 9. What?
Jerry Ryan.
Yes, Jerry Ryan. My gosh. Yeah, that one was a little bit early. But yeah, when he was on the cruise, yeah, he stole the show there. So I'm sure he did it at STLV. I just didn't witness it.
Just disclaimer, we apologize for any Amy memory issues. She is still recovering from Vegas. Guys, with that, it is time to close out this episode of Union Federation with a little subspace signals. Of course, as always, you can find the Union Federation on the Fandom Podcast Network, as well as the BQN. Of course, if you're watching this on our Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, thank you so much. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and give us a share. We are trying to continue to grow our wonderful YouTube channel. And of course, too, you can find us on the BQN feed for Union Federation, or you can find us on, of course, the master feed of the Fandom Podcast Network at fpnet.podbean.com. Of course, you can also find us on any of your favorite podcast sketchers, whether it be iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and so many others. If you want to join us on our amazing Facebook group where we keep you updated with all the Star Trek and hopefully some Orville news, we're keeping our fingers crossed here. Seth, we're begging you. We're begging you. Come on. Give us a hint. Give us something. A lot of Orville presence at STLV from what I saw as well.
Oh yeah, I was at the panel. Oh, we will talk after.
I was surprised when I saw how many of the Orville cast was there. So that is very cool that they were included within that as well.
Is there a lot of Orville costumes there?
I saw a couple, but yeah, I hope that they come back. I feel like that they had a good time. The panel was great. Yeah. My friend Mike Richards from Mission Log, the Orville podcast, was interviewing them, was the moderator. Penny's amazing. Oh, I'm not as good with the names.
Scott
Palecki.
Grimes was there, I know.
Adrian.
Yes. And okay, so the woman,
Kelly Grayson.
yes, she was there. The doctor was there. The Isaacs was there. The engineer,
Jay Lee.
yeah, he was there. Bordas was there, and Scott Grimes was there.
So a lot of Orville representation.
It was great. Yes,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
So of course, too, you can join us on our, as I said, our Facebook page for Union Federation, where we keep you up on all that news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at UnionFedPod. You can email us directly at the UnionFederation@gmail.com. I'm Kyle. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW and on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you on the socials?
Can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, or Twitter X now, at Spartan_Phoenix.
And Amy, when you are not traveling the world these days, where can people find you on social media and, of course, everything that's going on at the BQN?
Well, you can find us easier on BQN because we're there and always publishing. I'm trying to get back into things. I'm on the Twitter X. Is that what we're calling it? X? It's just ridiculous.
I'm just sticking with Twitter personally, but
oh, I know, protest. So that's at Miss Amy Nelson. But I am in our Facebook group, so come talk to us there.
And of course, you can find our great science officer Haley on Twitter or /X at Trekkie01D. Guys, it's been so fun talking Strange New Worlds. We might sneak in one more episode on Strange New Worlds before it's all said and done. But either way, too, we got Lower Decks right around the corner. Very excited to get back into that. It's a great time for Star Trek with some amazing shows out there and some amazing things happening. But until next time, thank you so much to my amazing crew for this episode. And for now, hailing frequencies are closed.